We've got a new friend in the studio. I want to introduce everyone to Wendell Robinson, who's the executive director of the Restored Justice Foundation. Welcome to the studio, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Pat.
You have a beautiful voice. Hi. How you doing? So I know that you have an incredible story to tell us. And first, I want to find out, where did you grow up, my friend?
I am a West Sider, Patty. I am Lawndale. Grew up, born and raised Lawndale community.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Farragut.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to Farragut. Went to a couple different high schools. Started getting in trouble early on, and I went to a couple different high schools.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So you work for. Tell us a little bit about where this organization comes from that you've created.
I didn't create the organization, but my predecessor, Joby Cates, is the founder of Restored Justice, and I think in a nutshell, Joby has a rich history. She came from an organization, Human Rights Watch, and she's seen just atrocities around the world. And she's seen something that was going on in this state and decided to do something about it. And she's seen how our carceral system was treating children. Like, we are probably one of the few places in the world that treat our children in a certain way. Like, to sentence our children to die in prison. Mm-hmm. Like, that is a common practice here. Not only just in Illinois, but around this country. So she's seen that, and she was like, I want to do something about that.
And we're sort of immune to that. We figure, well, there's detention centers or there's youth center, but we don't realize that there's also we're sort of funneling kids in and keeping them there.
We are, and I am someone who's system impacted. At 17, I was charged, I was convicted, I was sentenced, and I was sentenced to life and 35 years in prison.
Oh my God! So,
in the organization inception, she said that she wanted to abolish juvenile life without parole. Right, and 10 years ago, we turned in 10 this year. And
happy birthday!
Thank you. And she decided to bring founding board members and founding members of Restored Justice to the prisons to visit the people that they were advocating for, and that's where my connection came in. I was in Menard Correctional Center, and Joby and founding members of Restored Justice came out and they visited us, and that was like one of the more it was so moving, right, to visit, to have someone to come 6 hours away from Chicago to visit you, right, and then just for them to care about what it was that I was going through as a person that was incarcerated as a child. And then now I had this extreme sentence, and these were people that was like, we feel like this is wrong, and we want to do something about it. And thus, Restored Justice was founded to abolish juvenile life without parole. And that's something that we were able to accomplish. We was the 26th state to do that 2 years ago.
What's the youngest that a child has been convicted and sentenced to life?
The youngest parole that I know?
Yeah, that we know of in Illinois, I guess.
I know. I had friends, Patty, while I was incarcerated that was sentenced to life as early as 13 and 14 years old.
I mean, 17's horrible. This is all horrible.
It is.
And is it intended? I mean, I'm guessing they argue in court that this is an unfixable human being, or this human being needs to be discarded, essentially.
That is. And then when you think about the way that our sentencing schemes are set up, right? So you have what you call, when people are children, they have this process that they go through called an adult transfer, right? So a judge can, the state can ask, is this person fit to stand trial as an adult? So you can be like 13 years old, 14 years old, and be charged as an adult. And then the way that the sentencing schemes are designed, right? If you are charged with certain crimes, say if you are charged and convicted of multiple homicides, right? The way that the sentence scheme were set up, it's only one sentence that a person can receive, and that's life without parole. You're not eligible to get the death penalty at that time because you're not 18. That's one of the criteria to be able to receive the death penalty,
which we don't have in Illinois anymore.
We don't have in Illinois
currently.
No more.
Yeah. But
when I went through the system,
we did
have that.
Okay, so prior to George Ryan, so that would have been the 90s?
Early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was incarcerated in 1992 at 17 years old.
We're very close. How can we be so close in age and you look so good? What a weird thing to say right now. I'm just saying.
It's okay.
You've been through it. You've been through it.
I have been through a few things, and I can't say that it was, a walk in the park. But at the same time, I've had grace. I've had, people that, cared about me, people that were praying for me through the entire thing that I went through. And I think that's how I'm able to, sit here and be an advocate and be willing to just, share my story. So, yeah.
How do you manage that? Because I met somebody, a friend of mine who passed away a few years ago, Laura Caldwell, worked with the Life After Innocence, which was wrongfully convicted folks who now are, trying to find their lives. And I spoke to somebody who had been in for 35 years wrongfully. And I think a lot of people listening can't even imagine, like, how so it's the grace, it's the support, it's knowing that, and knowing that you're right, that this is wrong. You know what I mean? There has to be an element of that to sustain you, too.
Yeah. And, I mean, I feel like, certain things, we don't know how we built until we have to go through some things, right? Because a lot of people say, like, I don't know how you did. I was incarcerated for 25 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, Patty. And people be like, I don't know how you did that. And I'm like, I don't know how I couldn't have done it, right?
We have no choice. Once you're in it, you don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
I mean, you do, but it's not. It's to get through it.
It is. It is. And then even like with me too, right? I have to uplift in this moment, like the supporting cast that I had. Like I didn't have like a vast supporting cast, but the people that were there, they didn't take time off. My mom, my grandma, stepdad, people like those people didn't take not one day off. If I did 25 years, they did 25 years with me, right? So I was like, I was really blessed to have people to support me through that whole ordeal. And not just through that, but even in my transition since I've been home. I've been home now just over 7 years. So it's like I had a supporting cast. Like if I didn't make it, I didn't want to make it, right? Seriously.
You have to make it for them since they're holding out for you as well.
They are. And like I say, they were supportive of me during a time where it was like, we gonna do whatever it is that we need to do in order to make sure that you okay while you there. Like, so just, stay focused and, stay out of trouble while you're there.
And with this mission, with working with the Restore Justice Foundation, for folks who want to understand, because when you talk to legislators about the mission of fairness, humanity, and compassion throughout the Illinois criminal legal system, how do they, because this doesn't seem like right now, especially now, I'm just trying to figure out how we cut through the noise for folks because we see this nationally. I don't know if you heard today during the press conference at the White House, now the president is looking into whether or not it would be legal to deport U.S. citizens to this facility in El Salvador. And we've heard some folks say if you commit a crime, you don't deserve due process. Like we're moving in a much more like they ran on law and order without any concern for like communities, for how this happens and how our, as you mentioned, our judicial system, our criminal system, our penal system in Illinois funnels kids for lifetime sentences into the system. I mean, like this is a gargantuan effort to convince people that they need to be invested in this, not just because someone that is imaginary or they don't know about or have no concern over. This can happen to anybody.
Yeah. And I feel like, one of my challenges as someone who's system impacted, right, is to allow people to see who I am and see the community that I'm a part of, right? Because I think oftentimes people have a preconceived notion as to what long-term incarceration looks like, right, without even seeing what long-term incarceration look like, right? So now I think part of my task in the community that I'm a part of is to kind of like show the world what long-term incarceration can look like, right? Yes, we can come home and run organizations. Yes, we can come home and make significant impact to, spaces that can't even be quantified. If it's like the things that we do with our families, the things that we may do in our community, being involved in, some of us in our spiritual journeys, right? These are all different things that we are making significant impact in, right? And I feel like, part of my job is just to allow the world to see what long-term incarceration can look like. With the right support, the sky would not fall. Like, it will not fall, Patty.
I know. Believe me, I agree completely. I feel like a lot of us shout into the wind when it comes to talking about what people believe, basically locking people up and throwing away the key. And we have a for-profit criminal system here with the prisons. I mean, I remember there was a point where one of the governors signed an agreement with the private prison companies to make sure that the 90% of beds were filled. Well, so what are we doing here?
Yeah, and even when you look at it from that aspect, right? Like prisons are big business, right? But at the same time, it's a level of things that are definitely going on in these communities, right? And they just don't, like, people just don't wake up, one day and be like, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, we have to be mindful of just the trauma that has been inflicted on a lot of these communities, right? And these are some of the, and our carceral system is like in alignment with, some of the things that goes on in some of these communities. And even when you see, like, if it's like myself, I grew up in Lawndale, and there's so many people that, they grew up in poverty, right? But at the same time, we kind of like was drawn to what it was that we seen in those communities, right? And then now, as men and women that are, that have grown up and grew out of, that element, is like, now, how do we roll our sleeves up and be involved in, healing?
Yeah.
And that's the only way. Like, this hoodie that I have on now is a really good friend of mine's, right? King Musa, right? And
get the camera right there. And that's great. Healing is crime prevention. Musa.
There it is.
Yeah.
Like, and it's and that's something that he advocates for. It's something that that people that a lot of people in our community believe in, and I embrace it. Like, we have to be healed before we able to do anything. And like now, if it's coming out, sharing my story, talking about the work that we do at Restore Justice, and just advocating in a totally different way, right? Where I'm able to, lead an organization, a statewide policy organization, after being incarcerated for 25 years, and we making like some significant contributions. Not only are we making significant contributions, but I have a team that is phenomenal. Like, I reside in DeKalb, right? Mm-hmm. So most days I'm commuting, round trip commute for me is 3.5 to 4 hours, right?
Yeah, depending on traffic, sure.
And I come in, and it's not burdensome. It's like I come in and I'm doing work with people that I care about, people that care about me, and we having an impact. Like, I love the work that I do. I know so many people that I grew up with. Like, I was incarcerated from the time from 17 until I was 42 years old. So I just was able to celebrate my 50th birthday in February. So I spend much more time.
Happy belated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I spend much more time incarcerated than I've been home. So now it's just about, having that impact, enjoying what it is that we're doing, changing narratives, and just like I said, and just being that example of what long-term incarceration can look like.
We are talking to Wendell Robinson, Executive Director of the Restore Justice Foundation. You can go to restorejusticeillinois.org. Again, the website is restorejusticeillinois.org. We're going to continue our conversation when we come back. So check out the website and support the work that they're doing and learn more. I think that's the first step, is to be informed. Listen is first, being informed, taking action. These are the things. More when we come back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 Seattle, Washington.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our conversation with Wendell Robinson, Executive Director of the Restore Justice Foundation. I want to find out more, because one of the things that we covered was this idea that in Illinois, young people could be prosecuted, found guilty, and then sentenced to life without parole even at the youngest age of 13 years old. So what work are you doing right now? What are some of the things that, first of all, how can we support the work that you're doing, and what are you up to?
So first and foremost, you can support us if you go to restorejustice.org. You can see exactly what it is that we're doing, things that we have done. But I think one of the more important things I feel like now is retroactivity. Like, retroactivity is something that is near and dear to me. because it's like, I really understand, the people that some of the legislation that we pass, that the people that it affect, right? And I think like when we can sit and talk about an issue today, and you and I can say like, Patty, this is definitive. This is wrong. Right. Definitively, we can take a hard stance on that. So if it's wrong today, it's wrong tomorrow, right? And it
was wrong yesterday.
It was wrong yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? Because like one of the analogies that we like to use is like when you have a recall on any product, right? It doesn't just move forward from that point on, right? The recall exists for whoever bought that product, right? But we haven't taken the same approach, to our criminal legal system.
In the sense that we're not, so the legislation was passed? We
are working on legislation now that will.
As far as the not for life without parole, has that been passed or no?
Yeah. So in 2023 we became the 26th state to abolish juvenile life without parole.
Oh, I can't believe it existed. Right.
So people 20 and younger cannot receive, a mandatory life sentence without parole in this state.
But the people who have mandatory without parole, who were younger before the legislation was passed, are not being covered by that legislation.
It is not.
So they're still in jail.
They are, and these are some of the opportunities that we are advocating for now.
Yeah.
And then even with the legislation that we are advocating now, we have a lobby day tomorrow that we taking a group of people to Springfield to advocate for some of this legislation, right? But even understanding in this moment, right, where you have people that has been incarcerated and may not. And may get an opportunity, right? And it's just an opportunity for review. It's not like a blanket, like, open all the doors and let everyone out.
Case by case.
Right. It's an opportunity for people to show who they've become. And if you've done your work, if you've invested in yourself in our carceral system, for however amount of years you've been there, these are the people that we are advocating for. And I think, that's only fair. Like if a person went in our system, Patty, at 16 or 17 years old, and they've spent 25 or 30 years, and for the better part of that time, they grew out of, whatever it was that they was into, and then they are, putting themselves in position, to be better individuals, right? And these are the same people that we want to embrace coming home to be leaders in this social justice movement, right? So it's people that are ready, like literally ready. That the things that I'm doing now, I know people that's going to do it 10 times better than what it is that I'm doing, right? And I'm just happy to just be here and be a trailblazer for it, right? But at the same time, like give people give folks an opportunity, show who they are. Because we can look at, like, we have so many ways of seeing who a person seeing who a person who they become. If it's like you have a disciplinary jacket, it's so many ways that people are monitored in our carceral system. Yep. And then even what it is that a person has invested in. If they've invested in, if they've educated themselves, they took all of the classes, all the different classes, anything that was positive in the institution, if it's correspondence courses, whatever it is, right? You have people with tons of certificates and, degrees. And these are the same people that don't get an opportunity just for review. So these are the people that we are advocating for.
I can't believe they. By the way, I just realized I offered you water and forgot to get it for you. But I will make sure that you leave with a cup of water.
It's fine.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
I just realized it because I was like running back here. I feel very bad about that, and I know it's very dry in here. Yeah. I just can't believe that we have passed legislation that says that we should not permanently dispose of somebody essentially in the penal system. And we didn't do it retroactively. I mean, so what legislators are? I mean, obviously we should be calling our legislators too and say, is there a bill that has been crafted and is being carried by any way or sponsored?
So we have a retroactivity bill. It's 3330 HB 3332, I believe it is.
Okay. And you're going down to Springfield tomorrow. For folks who don't know, there are several days where organizations go down to Springfield to to rally, to show up in numbers, and to talk to their legislators, that might not be from your own community. And there's often speeches. There's a lot of informational moments where people can connect with other folks who might be from other parts of the state and come together to talk about these issues. And again, the website that we've been talking to Wendell Robinson about is, hold on one second, it's Restore Justice.
Yeah, restorejustice.org.
And you can find out more about how to support the work that they're doing. Hey, if you want to drive down to Springfield and join their mission to raise awareness for this, I think that's a good idea, too.
It is, and
I love Springfield, by the way.
And there's other ways, that people can be involved. Typically, during session on Friday, we have an advocacy team, right? And they meet every Friday for a half hour, and they just be brought up to speed of, what our legislative agenda look like. And then if there's any other legislation that we support in terms of just criminal legal reform,
right.
We bring people up to speed. And then sometimes we may call to action if it's having folks call their legislator or, support, certain legislation. But these are some of the ways that you can be a part of what it is that we're doing. We do trainings quarterly, on the process, and we found that is so empowering where folks are able to just understand the process, right? Because it's one thing, to understand, okay, this is a bill, right? And then, but all the different channels that a bill has to go through before it becomes a law, right?
Right.
And we found that to be so empowering. Then not only does that be empowering, but we're able to just lend our level of expertise as to some of our best practices, what it is that we've learned, in doing this advocacy space. If it's building relationships with legislators, just some of our methods. And then, like I said, at the end of the day, we enjoy the work that we do. We pride ourselves on bringing good energy to whatever space that we come in. That's one of the things about, the team that I'm a part of. We want to bring good energy. We want to educate folks about the process. And we enjoy doing it, Patty. We enjoy it. Maybe one day you come to our office and
yeah, I could do that. I would love to.
Yeah, you come to our office and see how it is. Just the energy that Restore Justice has.
Well, and there are folks who want to learn more. In addition to the website for restorejusticeillinois.org, you can also check out. Jeremy Gorner wrote a piece yesterday in the Chicago Tribune, right, on this bill. There's if you Google it, and I just Googled reactivity. What was it? It was
retroactivity.
Retroactivity. I can't.
Yeah, retrorecence.
You're getting me all tongue-tied.
Okay.
Retroactivity, but it came up even with my misspelling of other things.
Yeah.
No Parole Illinois, or go to restorejustice.org is the first thing that you should do to visit and learn more. And yesterday, the Chicago Tribune, Jeremy Gorner had a piece in here about the bill that's being worked on, so that people can be more informed. And folks, please call your legislators. I mean, that's the thing too, is if they've got to have skin in this game too.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's just that was a piece of legislation. Like I said, is so near and dear to me. I testified in front of committee for this piece of legislation. Right.
Good.
I was able to just kind of go and just explain, why it's important to me. What it means to me. How many people that I know that this can affect, and not only that. I think I was able to just, really illustrate what our system impacted community is doing. It's some system impacted folks out here that's that's doing some amazing work, right? And they love what it is that they're doing. Some people has, considered themselves part of the problem for so long, but now it's these are the same people that are that want to come up with solutions. These are some of the same people that want to roll their sleeves up and just put some skin in the game, Patty.
Let's help them get across the finish line, folks. RestoreJustice.org.
Correct.
And we're going to talk to you again. I look forward to having you back in studio.